A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice Friday late night. Well, it's been a bit of a week, hasn't it? Really. Not only are the results not good on the pitch, we're hearing an awful lot of stuff in the background, aren't we? About what may or may not be going on, and you got to ask yourself how much of this is bullshit and how much of this is fact. And I've got not one but two. Well, he's not a guest because he's the co-host. He said he weren't able to come on, and then at the last minute he's here. But you know, I've got a guest that is as good as, if not better than him, in some parts. Well, no, we've got a man of the past and a man of the future, present. You'll fucking know what I mean when I bring him on. So let's just do that. Good evening, Nige. Good evening, Dan. How are you?
Very, very well.
How we doing?
What should we talk about today? Should we get the shit out of the way and then we can maybe briefly talk about the game? Because we got a game tomorrow, an important game against Brentford.
Your Monday night show ain't that bad still. Don't knock yourself, son. I really enjoy it.
Pretty good, I thought. Where do we start? Where do we start with this? You know, there's suggestion, isn't there? Oh, good evening to the audience, by the way. I apologise. I didn't even acknowledge you guys. Good evening, and we'll look at some of your comments in a minute as well. Where do we go with this? What do we believe? It's not been good on the pitch. So does it mean that there's trouble, according to some rumours, between these two guys? Who wants to kick off?
I think it's a load of old crap. I think it's perpetrated by social media, people reading things that actually they've misread what's been put out or what's been said. Some things have been worded badly. Some things really shouldn't be said that have been put out this week. And I've told the person that said some of it, but he knows what I think anyway.
You're not talking about Mr. SW, are you?
Yes, yeah. You know, the story that, you know, I don't see any benefit sometimes in putting out that Steidtens bought every player apart from Sullivan. I mean, what's the point of knowing that? What does that say?
Well, it was a silly statement anyway, because we know that Kilman must have been a Lopetegui request.
Yeah, because he's but you know, but then there was bits of it where it's Steidtens done it in consultation with the manager.
Yeah.
But what we got to remember is actually, and that's a Freudian slip straight away, because he's not the manager, is he? And this is different. We've never had this. He's head coach. This is a different model in a way. So we shouldn't compare him in the way that the things are done to what's gone on previously, because he's not picking the players, is he? The club are buying the players, and they've engaged the head coach to coach the players.
So therefore, because we've had some comments, like, I don't know, Dan, if you've seen these, like Balague made this this like sort of weird sort of statement about look beyond the bench and all that, which seemed to sort of like I got stuck on it. It came out on Monday, and when I was doing the show live on Monday, I got stuck on it for quite some time and trying to analyze it. You know, and trying to think, what does he mean? You know, look beyond the bench. What does that mean? So it sounds as if, you know, we've got Balague, you know, being on the side of Lopetegui, and it feels as if we've heard an awful lot from Romano this week. You know, he keeps dropping things, doesn't he? He's been doing it almost all week, and by the sounds of it, we believe he's being briefed by Steidtens. I mean, What do we make? What do we make of that statement by Balague? What did he mean by? Because I really got completely tied up in it on Monday night. What is he on about when he's talking about look beyond the bench?
Oh, do you know what, mate? I don't know. I really don't know. First of all, I'm going to apologise for the camera situation. I've already briefed you two on it, but you'll still be able to hear me if it does freeze.
You're all good, mate.
I was
There you go,
read.
you're back.
I read it, and then I was a bit like, I'm not sure. I don't really know what he means. Is he maybe pointing to the fact that Lop and Steidten have signed 8 new players for the first team, but haven't worked on the bench? I don't know. I really don't know. To be honest, it was nice to see at least one person side with Lop, because it's been a tough start at a new club, and it's, we went 1-0 up against Liverpool the other night, and if you'd have seen him, you'd have thought we were 2-0 down. He looks so stressed out already, and 7 games into his tenure. Do you know what I mean? So it was nice to see someone come out, but I don't know, mate. I read it and I didn't really know what to take from it.
Do you think it may be read in a way that it's the point you just raised, Nigel? We're getting other teams have been doing it for years, having a technical director and a coach. Could it be he meant that maybe Steidten hasn't picked the right players for what Lopetegui wants? Are they in tune?
Well, the weird thing is, the Spanish David Moyes was a tag given quite early doors, and that stems from the fact that when he was in charge of Sevilla, actually, that rather than playing, as you can see, the type of Spanish football that Pep at Barcelona brought through, and that Iriola plays, that Alonso at Leverkusen plays. If you look, it's a very Spanish type of football. Lopetegui was quite successful not playing that way.
Yeah.
So, in a way, I suppose following Moyes, you would think in the same, pragmatist is another word. I mean, if you look at the stats, we are having more shots per game.
We're having more of everything, more possession, more shots.
Yes,
more
but I mean, look, but what does that look like? Because at the end of the day, against Chelsea last season, we won 3-1 with 28% possession, I think, and like 5 shots in the whole game. Well, against Chelsea just gone, I think we had about 52% possession.
Yep.
But more shots. Well, nothing to show for it.
Well, here's the irony, because, and I know people are going to go, you must be mad for saying this, but I was at Liverpool on Wednesday, and up to 75 minutes,
yes, we were in the
game.
Yes,
you're not mad for saying that. Still,
not only in it. Sorry, Dan, go on.
No, you're not. You're not mad. You're not mad for saying that. Oh, I watched the game from home, and I thought we were in it until Alvarez got sent off, and then it was just that typical West Ham capitulation where we just fell to pieces. But we were very much in the game.
And it was like we had possession. We were creating chances. We fucking missed a lot of chances. Yeah. Ironically, on Wednesday night, we missed quite a few. I know you're laughing, but I'm telling you now.
I know. I watched the game. What I'm laughing at is the fact that actually our goal came from not even a West Ham assist. Yeah,
I know it deflected. So, but you got to be there and create it.
A typical West Ham are 1-0 up in the game and have had no shots on target. That was the stat at the time. I was laughing with my mate. I said, "That's typical West Ham." I mean, yes, we were technically still in the game up until the 3rd goal. If you look though at the 2nd goal, we were open again, weren't we? In the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
But it's still too early. You can't go round. I struggle with those that want to sack a manager after 5-6 games. Yep. When we've had this, swell of supporters against the previous manager because of the way he played football, not because of the outcome, but because of the way we achieved what we achieved. So now we've got to look for something different. All we can do realistically as fans, I believe, is just hope that something along the line he does improve. He's got a mixed record, hasn't he, Lopetegui, in a way.
It's an interesting record because if you look at, he's been more successful than unsuccessful. You know, he went to he did what a lot of managers want to do. You know, thinking that you're big enough to be able to go to a big club, and he went to Real Madrid, and that didn't work.
No,
I think he fucked himself over, didn't he? When it came to the Spanish job, was it because he was courted by Real Madrid?
Yeah,
Yes, they got rid of him.
He was actually undefeated as Spanish manager.
Yeah,
undefeated. You know, and he did really
so was
well
Sam Allardyce, though, and not just
your favorite manager, or the one that you favour talking about most.
Yeah. I just thought I'd throw that out there as a meaningless stat.
Stats are stats, eh? But I mean, he did well with the Spanish team. He did well with the under-21s. He did absolutely superbly well with Seville. You know, so on the whole, he hasn't had, because a lot of people are calling it a Pellegrini type signing. You know, very, very similar to Pellegrini and so on. But he's not that bad, is he? Or am I
think
wishing?
It's too hard. I think it's too hard to judge after 7 games, personally. I just, you know, like you got, like Nigel's already mentioned, he's a head coach. Yeah, it's a completely different way of doing things now. So they're building the squad for him. I'm sure he has got some influence, but they're building the squad for him so he can concentrate on coaching the team. And whether you liked Moyes or not, he's got to coach the bad habits out of this team as well and get them playing the way he wants. You know, like, we're not going to play in that low block anymore, so you've got to coach that out of them. And you know, I was saying to someone the other day, you've got to remember there's a few players there that have spent the majority of their West Ham career playing for David Moyes. Soucek's one of them. Do you know what I mean? So Soucek only knows one way of doing things. Bowen spent the majority of his career under this manager. Like, there's a few players there you don't realise that their way of doing things is the Moyes way of doing things. And players don't just forget this overnight.
That didn't even really cross my mind. I mean, it should have done. It should have been bloody obvious, shouldn't it? But you know, even though he's telling them to play a certain way, play the high line.
Yeah.
I mean, we were badly exposed. I don't think we were badly exposed. As I know that, again, this is going to sound weird. I think we were more exposed against Chelsea than we were against Liverpool. You know, because the scoreline seems to suggest otherwise. But you know, against Chelsea, we were
the Chelsea game's the only one I've actually been really angry at, because we just didn't compete at all in any area of that pitch. We got ripped apart in the centre midfield, and you know, obviously, I don't go over there as much now. I watched it on the TV. Mate, Lopetegui was pissed off from the minute the ball kicked off. He was so angry, screaming at the players. Like, and I'm not saying that he's not to blame. He set the team up that way to go out and play a certain way, and then tried to influence it with the subs. But this guy was just angry the whole game because they just clearly weren't doing the things he wanted them to do. He has to take the majority of the blame because he's the manager. But
so is that rubbing off then? I mean, people said, you know, the challenge that Alvarez did, the second challenge, which sent him off, is the way Lopetegui handling things on the side, on the touchline, is that rubbing up? Alvarez doesn't need an excuse to go in on players, does he? But is that rubbing off because they want to try harder? They're seeing the manager, they're seeing the head coach going nuts on the touchline. Is that maybe why someone like Alvarez went in and got his second yellow, or are we not seeing enough aggression? Maybe.
I don't know. I think he just lost his head. He should be more aware when you're on a yellow like that. There was players in behind him. I think it was just careless. It was just a moment. Probably frustrated as well. Like, you know, we were in the game, weren't we? And then 3-1 down. Could be a lot of things. Just don't know. It's hard to explain unless you're really part of it.
So going back then to this whole issue in the background. I mean, you've said, Nigel, you know, you've already told Sean he shouldn't say certain things, etc. But, you know, he does it for clicks. We know that.
Yeah, he don't care.
And, I mean, so is it? I mean, completely, it's not easy to ignore it when it's in your face all the time, when it's on social media. How does the fan base get over that? You know, because let's say we lose tomorrow. Let's say we go to Brentford and we lose another game.
Entirely possible. With
it is highly possible. They're
with our league record, whatever they called it, GMEX, and it or something, the GTEC.
The GTEC, yeah.
Well, look, how do they get over it? You move on to Ipswich. You know, that game's gone. You know, when you looked at the fixtures, I'm quietly confident. We were possibly fortunate away at Fulham, you could say, with the last-minute equaliser. And we didn't, you know, you was there still, weren't you? We didn't really play well either, did we, against Fulham?
Really. No, but we ground. You see, it's when you're not playing well and you grind out results.
Yeah, Fulham didn't take their chances, and you know, Ings took the chance that was afforded to him in a proper Danny Ings goal, showing what he can do, and he was rewarded by not really much, really, you know, especially with Fulkrug out injured. Antonio weren't starting. You would have thought, I don't know, maybe Ings could have done something with Chelsea. I don't know, maybe not. But anyway, but away from home, obviously, we've had 2 away games and got 4 points. So, you know, but you know, the thing about it is that it's your home games where you got 50,000 West Ham fans watching you. Though nowadays, obviously, everybody's watching. So, and I suppose social media is the sounding board, isn't it? It's where people go to vent their frustrations. I do get the argument that it's like the old days, but people just sat in pubs and did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's different now. It's different, and I think the mindset of people is different. Maybe I am a dinosaur and outdated. I've just never understood. I just never really understood the mindset of that. And to be fair, I don't think really I've ever got angry. Not that I can remember.
I think we get angry at certain results, don't we, or certain performances. We have a whine about that and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think maybe Nigel means to the point where he feels the need to like stick a camera in his face and scream at it. Because this is what a lot of, you know, West Ham channels, social media channels are doing. You know, to be fair, still you're one of the rare channels that doesn't do it. So,
if I started ranting online, people would watch me have a fucking heart attack halfway through. And
I mean, I've seen you running up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
So.
You've seen me running up and down the stairs, exactly.
Yeah, it's you know, I don't know. Sometimes I think with social media, I think some people in social media don't realise how their comments can be taken, and that they can influence quite heavily the support base in the way it thinks. Look, podcaster, you know, predominantly a podcaster. You know, I'm in the same boat there.
Yeah.
And that's what, in a way, that's why I think I prefer podcasting. It's not instant, you know.
It gives you time to think about what you want to say.
Yeah, perhaps you know, if I was instant, I don't know. You know, too many take themselves seriously. Anyway, that it's you know, it's never been my bag, but sometimes it's the message, isn't it? But everyone's different, you know. Everyone is different, and there's a lot of fans out there that are looking at it, and it's all about what do you want from your football club. And the problem I always get with this is that even between the 3 of us here, I bet we would expect something different.
Yeah,
from the football club. What in why I say, where do you expect West Ham to be?
Well, exactly. I mean, when you make a change of it doesn't matter who you change. When you make a change of manager to coach, or even if it was manager to manager, when you make a change of players, you know, when you sell a player and bring a new player in, you're expecting something to happen, something different, you know, and it's natural, isn't it? But I remember when, you know, before the season started and Lopetegui took over, a lot of fans were saying, you know, I'm quite happy we finished mid-table this season. Clearly, from after four league games, five league games. Clearly, after that, we're not happy if it ends up just being mid-table, are we? Because we're kind of expecting to, not saying we're expecting to have won every game, but I think we're expecting it to be better than just 4 points.
I don't know what it is, but it's almost like the fan, and I don't want to generalize the whole fan base because it is just small sections, but all of a sudden it just feels like the fan base seem to think we have a God-given right to win every game.
Yeah.
And like if you actually look at the start we've had, Villa at home ain't easy. They're a Champions League team, and they've shown themselves to be a very good team as well.
Yeah.
We've had Man City, and I know we lost 3-1 in that game, but there were times in that game where we looked very good.
We did. Here's the irony. I think our best two games, our best two performances, and again, it's going to sound weird, against Man City and against Liverpool for 75 minutes. And we got tonked in both games.
And then last year we lost away at Fulham and Palace and got tonked as well, hammerings. And then this year we've picked up 4 points, like Nigel's already said. So I actually think we've had a tough start. And I say this to everybody: there are no easy games in the Premier League. There's no easy games, even against the teams you think that you should be beating. If they turn up on the day, it's a 50-50. Like that's how the Premier League is now. And you couple that with a new manager, a new way of doing things. And, it sounds like I'm making excuses for the manager and the team, but I just don't understand why it's just there's a lack of patience. No one's willing to give him 10, 15 games before they start passing judgment. It's just, I don't know.
But I would, for me, you got to, unless it's catastrophic, you got to, even Avram Grant got the full season, unless it's catastrophic, you have to see it's all about building a club. In a way, it was easy for Lopetegui in a way, but it was also difficult. He's just followed the most successful Premier League manager that West Ham's had.
People don't even like you saying that, but I know.
But for points, for goal scores, for wins, away win, everything across the board, he was apart from possession, but there ain't possession stats all the way back to the beginning because no one was really bothered. In 1993, we didn't sit there and go, yeah, we beat Newcastle, but we only had 35% possession. I weren't really happy.
Exactly. I've always said, I don't care how much possession we have. It's what you do with it. That's important.
You know what the biggest shame where Moyes was concerned is that COVID era, we were entertaining. And then for some reason he decided, no, I don't want to play like that anymore. That's what the biggest shame was, and there's a band of fans out there that are there's one in here who's even got the name. Be careful what you wish for FC in the comments. But it's just like there are a band of fans out there that be careful what you wish for and all the rest of it. Regardless of what you think of Loppy's big start, right? It was time to move on from Moyes. Whether it had been Lopetegui or a different manager, it was time. It just was. Moyes said it himself. It was time to move on, from him to a new manager. So regardless of this start and the results and whatever, it was time to move on. I don't know. I just feel like some people expect Rome to be built in a day, and that's just not the case. Football's just not like that.
In answer to that, the reason why I came to the conclusion it was time to move on was purely is that it's never good for a football club to have a fan base almost at war within itself, because that's what actually the last season or the last 6 months of Moyes had descended into. So that's why, at the end of the day, the ultimate aim for me would be the ownership to fuck off, but they ain't gonna go. And
someone mentioned that earlier, though, Nigel, and someone mentioned that earlier. Now, okay, a lot of people, and this is where we get carried away, and I'll give you examples of. We get carried away because we changed Moyes for Lopetegui, and all of a sudden we're going to win the league. We get further carried away because we went out and spent a whole load of money in the transfer window, and all of a sudden we won the transfer window, forgetting the fact that every other fucking team in the Premier League has also gone out and tried to strengthen. And now
Liverpool didn't, because they only signed one player still.
All right. Apart from Liverpool, them aside, Chelsea and we did, and Aston Villa did, and all that.
Yeah.
And now, and then people will think, well, that's, what the problem is. The problem's the board. The minute they sell up, we'll be better. We don't know that, do we? We genuinely don't know that. They could sell us to some Americans, or the way they've done Man United, bled them dry, haven't really been a contender for the last, 10 years or so, give or take. Yeah. It could go that way. It might not get better, if we replace the board. I'm not advocating let's keep the board. I think,
but again, it comes back to that. Where do you think? Because for me, people say to me, well, I think West Ham should be challenging the top 6 and we should be winning cups. And then me goes, well, then you're the problem. Because actually, it's West Ham's never been that club. So why do you think we should be now? And because for me, it seems many live in this West Ham bubble. Is that when they look at West Ham signing these 9 players, and they look at them, this geezer from PSG, he's got to be good. He plays for PSG. Might not be good, yeah.
It's probably why he's leaving PSG.
No. Just see what I mean. Even PSG have bad players.
Yeah.
We get this player from Nice that Juventus wanted. Well, Juventus has signed a few duds over the years for a start. There's so much to it. But not only that is they look at that and think, we've done really well. We've got some good players in. We've got this Brazilian wonder kid in, but he's not playing at all, is he? And he scores a wonder goal the other day. Well, he was playing against 18-year-olds,
Yeah.
And we did lose that game.
Good, though.
It was a good goal, yeah. But anyway, he looked good against 18-year-olds. Yeah. Before people get carried away about our 3-2 win against Chelsea tonight.
Well, that's just ruined what I was going to ask you later on in the show. We'll give me get a chance.
Anyway, but what I'm saying is, you're in this bubble, and what you totally fail to look at is what the other clubs have been doing as well. And the fact is that they're actually starting in a better position than us anyway, because 8 clubs finished above us straight away. So they're in a better position than us to add to what they've got, coupled with, I think it's in West Ham DNA. We're going to be forever shy. I don't know if there was a gypsy's curse ever put on West Ham United, but it does seem to feel like that at times.
Yeah. So what does the fan base do? In all seriousness, because we do get swept away in this. I think the last thing I really want, I'm not going to lie to you, if we go through another season of abject negativity, it'll be hard. It'll be hard for a lot of people to just carry on with this.
The thing is, though, still, you can't expect the fan base to all have the same opinion. At the end of the day,
and I don't know, mate. That's
opinions are like arseholes, aren't they? Everyone's got one, and it's just how it is. And you can't. I don't think you could expect the fan base to all have the same opinion. But I think the most frustrating thing when you sit back, and social media again is a big driving force in this. It's just the divide. There just has been this constant divide. We had it with Moyes, those that wanted him to stay, those that wanted him to go, and we're still seeing it now. They're using that against people that wanted the change, and it's just constant. And if you're one of these people that spends enough time on social media, you'll see a lot of it. I tend to steer clear. But me and you were joking the other day, weren't we, still? Because for once I made a comment and then I got absolutely hammered for my opinion, didn't I?
Hammered.
And it was just, it was just having my say. Yeah,
and it wasn't even, it wasn't a say that was like out there, out of order.
I weren't being rude. I was just, expressing myself. I got hammered, and it was just like, okay, this is why I don't comment on social media and get involved in these things. But but we're never, the fan base is never going to think the same. If it did, it'd be boring, because when it's shit on the pitch, we need stuff to have a laugh at. We read online, don't we? So
what about the performances in general? Why don't we let's focus on that, because a lot of fans are beginning to say, I'm not seeing a lot of difference between us and Moyes, and between Lopetegui and Moyes. I personally am. We've already talked about, we're no longer playing the low block, we're playing a high line. We need to get acclimatized to that, because when we lose the ball, we get absolutely stuffed for it. We do have a lot more possession. We've had some good performances, albeit that the results haven't sort of suggested that. Against Man City, I thought we took the game to Man City. I thought we took the game to Liverpool. Are you two seeing a difference, or does it feel? Does the state of play, the way we're playing, does it feel the same, or can you actually see what Lopetegui is trying to achieve?
There's definitely been a change in the way we play, and the way he sets up. He has chopped and changed it, and in a way. And the other week it was like a 3-4-3 at times, and I think that was his problem at Chelsea. That actually, if you're going to play 3 at the back, for me, you got to play 5 in midfield.
Yeah.
And I think that was the problem, is that actually you had 3 at the back that was spaced out, and you only had 2 in the middle, and they got lost, and poor old Souček, got slaughtered
Totally
last season. And yet he's the first player that Lopetegui turned to against Chelsea when he realised he was being overrun in midfield.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing, isn't it? Because we've got a lot of fans that keep saying don't want to see Souček and don't want to see Antonio in the starting lineup. I kind of agree about Antonio, but the irony is that Souček, as you just said, he was the first man to turn to say, and he actually, when he came on, what did I call him at the beginning of the season? A disruptor. He comes on and he kind of like he's not the most flair player, but the irony, I did a comparison between Souček and Paqueta earlier in the season. I did their stats from last season. Souček came out better than him, and everyone, you can't compare them. Well, they're both midfielders. They're both central midfielders, so you can compare them, can't you? It's just that people look at Paqueta, and we're going to talk about Paqueta in a minute, because people talk about Paqueta and see, the Brazilian flair player, etc. And then they look at Souček and they go, oh, that dour Eastern European player, you can't compare him. But Souček, you can't have 2 managers in a row seeing something in Souček that most of the fan base don't see. Can you? Moyes trusted him. It looks like Lopetegui trusts him. Or is the fan base right over someone like Souček?
I think the issue with Souček is I don't think you can ever go at him for working hard. Do you know what I mean? But it's just, I've said it to you for ages still. You've got we've been weak in the engine room. In that centre midfield area, we've been weak for a long time. And I just don't think he's technically gifted enough or mobile enough to kind of carry that midfield the way we need him to. He comes alive in the box. Mm-hmm. He's a different animal in the box. But I think that's his issue. But you can, I've always said, I don't think anyone can ever have a go at Souček for the way he tries. He's always tried and always works hard. But it's just, is it effective enough in the area that he needs to be strongest?
Yeah, when you throw in Paqueta for quite a while now, it's all right, being able to do intricate skills and flicks and everything else. But how many times does it lead to a goal?
Not as many as it should.
And that's the thing. What's he there for? When you've got a creative player, if you're looking back to it, so if you look at, Paqueta is the Trevor Brooking of this team, yeah, or the Isle Berkovic of this team, depending on your age, yeah. Blimey, the goals that Isle created, the goals that Trevor's created or scored, Paqueta don't really do that, does he?
No.
And so when you got a team like West Ham playing the way it is, he could be a bit of a luxury, in my opinion.
He
And
tries the champagne pass too much, doesn't he?
yeah,
And gives it away way
yeah,
too
but
many times.
he's playing in a Prosecco team, you know.
yeah.
Oh, boom, boom.
Very quick, Paige.
I thought
I've
it
been
might
out for
have
a
been
meal.
a bit of shandy team or something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
offered me Prosecco and I took the lager. Get rid of that shite, mate. Fucking Prosecco.
I mean, a lot of the story came out, didn't it, this week about Paqueta, and apparently, I mean, I don't know. I've not followed this up to find out if there's any element of truth in it, but apparently his family paid money to the other Brazilian player who I can't remember, who's also been accused of betting stuff.
Yeah, there is another Brazilian player that's also been accused.
And his family paid him money. Paqueta's family paid him money.
I genuinely don't know anything about this. I haven't
Okay,
read it.
let me see if I can.
Yeah, I don't know about.
It.
You know, I'd personally, from what I've seen for a long time, I think he's got a problem because on the balance of probability that the inquiries will use, he's as guilty as sin, but not of. And this is the thing, not. I don't know. I don't think he's done it for financial gain or for any personal gain. I think it's just done because they thought they could manipulate it, you know, or to help other people out in a way as such.
Can you see that screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but it's on Amazon News still. Come on, what have I told you about them?
Well, I know, mate, but it's the only one I could find in the 5 minutes that I had.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
So you reckon it's not true then, or?
I don't, if it's on Amazon News, you know, I'll take it with a heavy
pinch of salt.
Well, it's more like a salt cellar.
Because the new Paqueta claim that merged will cause grave concern, blah blah blah. According to Ziegler, I don't know who Ziegler is.
Didn't he used to play for Liverpool?
No, I really don't know because I haven't read the whole story. Paqueta's relatives sent money to another Brazilian player accused of spot fixing, Luis Enrique. So, what do we do? Do we take that with a pinch of salt?
As I said, it's on the basis of probability. You know, it don't look good. You know, and they've obviously someone's managed to access bank accounts of family members and spotted the transfer of money. Why would you transfer money to this player? Why would this player have a loan if he's a professional? You know, or there's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of questions there.
What do you think, Dan? Is it playing on Paqueta's ability to perform, and should he be? I mean, on his day, he's fucking great.
Only he knows that, though, doesn't he? Still, you know what I mean? Like, I guess from the sidelines, we can look at it and say that he's not been playing to the level that we know he can. So potentially, you know, it could be weighing heavy on him. But you know, only he knows that, and potentially people at the club know that.
If it is weighing heavily on him, should he be taken out of the spotlight?
Yeah.
Would you take him out of the team at the moment?
Well, if he's not performing and he's not giving the team what the team needs, then you know, should be dropped. I don't think anybody should be beyond being dropped if they're not playing well.
Well, with that I agree with, and we kind of seem to have a coach that isn't afraid to make changes, is he? You know, so it shouldn't matter what your name is, you know. But when I'm looking at the players at the moment, and I've spoken about Kudus over the past few weeks, his body language is not good. Bowen is not on form. He had a half decent game the other day against Liverpool, but on the whole, he's not being consistent. There's quite a few players that are not really performing at the moment, is there? I mean, would you drop him, Nigel?
Well, Paqueta, I would drop him because of his current form. That's why I would drop him. And something needs to change. We need to get a grip there was a lot of blame on the defence for the Chelsea defeat, and I thought it was a bit harsh because actually I thought the problem was in the middle, that they had the freedom of the middle and to enable them to play the passes behind the defence. If they've got so much time on the ball in the middle of the pitch to pick the passes the way they did, what are the defenders supposed to do in a way? So you know, there was plenty of space for them to hit into. With I suppose it don't help when you got, you know, I think Wan-Bissaka was looking one way and they played the ball the other, but that was because the player who played the pass, I don't know if it was Palmer or whatever, to Jackson. And Ariola needs to look at himself really for the first goal.
Wow, coming from an ex-goalie, that's
yeah.
Well, he was poor. He was poor for the goal.
Yeah, all right. Don't knock me. I know I played once to flat stand, but you know, I had the odd good game. But yeah, to let that through your legs, you know, it's not a good look.
You mentioned Kudus as well, though. Still, I think the issue with Kudus is he's been wasted on that left wing, mate.
But and here's and right, I'll get into it because what team do you pick and where do you put players?
It is hard because obviously you want all your best players playing, but I just don't think Kudus is a left winger. I just don't think he's as effective there as he is centrally or on the right. I think that's where he's better.
I mean, I've been messing around with lineups against Brentford, and I wouldn't mind seeing that. I don't want to see Somerville drop because I thought he was he's been pretty good.
Yes.
Now, some people are calling him the new Benrahma. Is that fair?
Sorry. Yeah, possibly.
Really?
Well, I've watched him a few times. I've, you know, what was it? I called Benrahma the Poundland Aaron Lennon. So Aaron Lennon, you know, he's one of these players. He can beat loads of people, but the end product, the creativity seems to be lacking right at the last minute.
What
to
about
be fair though,
in his
defense, I thought he's had a good start to his career at West Ham, and I think he needs games under his belt. So you would keep playing him.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you want to keep playing him, obviously he's going to go out on the left. I mean, then you got to fit in Bowen, then you got to fit in Kudus, and you got to fit in Paqueta.
Well, I would drop there. I would drop Paqueta, push Kudus back in the middle. Yeah. I would lose. Yeah, I'd put Souček in.
There you go. Well, I've dropped him deeper rather than dropping in completely, but
yeah. And so no, I would get Paqueta off. You got to have two sitters.
Right.
So yes, you could have Kudus behind Antonio.
I'm of the opinion that I don't think you do need two sitters unless you're playing a club that, you know, do you know what I mean? I don't think you need to have two holding players every week. I just don't think you do.
So for Brentford tomorrow, for example, you'd have someone a little bit more creative next to Rodriguez. Or
I just think you need someone who's going to go box to box. It's fine having an Alvarez or a Rodriguez in there to sit just in front of those two central defenders and even drop in and make a free so the fullbacks can push on. But unless you're going to have someone that's going to go box to box, you're always going to be without another creative player in the final third.
So what do you do with Kudus?
Because against the Liverpool, you know, I think you do play two sitting players because you need that protection. But I just think,
then you need two players that have got pace, don't you? That's the thing.
Yeah,
because I think
Alvarez and Guido are too alike, aren't they? And neither are that quick.
I agree.
You know, neither. You know, they don't really cover the ground. We noticed that against Chelsea. That was our undoing against Chelsea. Was like Nigel said, centre mid, and you know we got ruined in there.
I'm glad you just read that still.
I didn't read it out.
I see that earlier when it was coming through.
So what do you do with Kudus? I mean, I'm beginning to think that he should be in the number 10 role. You know?
That's where I would play him.
Yeah. So Somerville out wide, Bowen on the right.
Because Kudus can go either way. With you know, he can play the left, he can play the right. Actually, the reason he don't play the right is because we've got Bowen.
Yeah.
The one thing that, funny enough, that we haven't tried for a good few years is had wingers that actually play on the not the correct side as such, but that are not inverted and that would actually whip the ball across. Now, if you was going to do that though, you would need to have like a Danny Ings type striker
getting on the end of the
playing,
ball.
because that's how Ings love the ball. You know, if the optimum position of crossing the ball actually is when the winger gets level with the
Kudus
penalty
ain't
area.
that kind of player though, is he? He's not a player that's going to be supplying the ball.
So if he sits behind, he can go either left or right.
Oh, got you. Right.
So by
right.
sitting in the middle, he can either go. He can play both feet.
I think
either
what
way.
it is, I think why I like Kudus behind the striker as well is if he chooses to drop deep and we become a free centre midfielders, he has the ability to carry the ball,
and he's combative as well.
Do you know what I mean? And there's that
Yeah.
thing that not a lot of players in this team can do is effectively carry the ball, and you know people bounce off him. You know, he's very strong on the ball, and he holds it up better than a lot of people give him credit for as well.
Yeah.
So I just
and
think
he gets his foot in.
Yeah, I just think so. Then you've got options if you play him centrally, because he could even receive the ball to feet and pass off because of his ability to hold it, or he can receive and turn, or he can run at people. Like I just think centrally he's a scary player. I just think that's where he's stronger. I just think he's wasted on the left because he's limited in what he can do, and I think he's never going to naturally cut in from the left because he's left-footed. So he can shoot on his right, but predominantly left-footed. So he's never going to come in naturally like he would off the right-hand side. I just think he's a bit wasted out on that left wing.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. What about Bowen then? I mean, you know, you just mentioned Nigel. You know, he's better out on the right, but can it work with him up front? I mean, look at our options. You know,
it can. You forget that you know, he did play centre striker last season when Antonio was out,
and he did all right, didn't he?
Got quite a lot of the goals that he scored were in that period. So, you know, it can work. He's not very physical, but he does have the ability. I mean, he had a couple of good touches against Liverpool where you think he's going to lose the ball, and he's run on and gone past them. So he's got that ability to do it. I think it goes back to realistically, as you're saying, you know, I think in a way Dan made a good point. The players that are existing that look out of form have just spent 4.5 years playing a low block. You know, we were playing football without the ball. You know, and that's what we did. We actually played football without the ball.
So in essence, really, not only are we talking about 9 new players being brought into the team to acclimatise, we're also talking about a dozen players who've been there who need to adapt.
Yeah,
and that ain't easy, is it?
No.
You know, yeah.
The one thing I've always said on the podcast when it comes to signing players is that you need evolution and not revolution. And West Ham are going for revolution. Well, and partly is, and this is the funny thing, well, not a funny thing actually, but anyway, is that Lopetegui's contract is only for 2 years anyway. So there's a message there. If you really want to look at it, there's a message there that shows you what West Ham are doing and everything else. They always seem to be trying to fatten the calf up quick to sell it off rather than, I don't know, building for the long term. But I honestly do believe that give it 5 years that people will be looking back at the David Moyes era more wistfully than they do at the moment.
I think you're absolutely right. We did have to change. We did have to move on from Moyes. Even I, who kind of like, and you, Dan, you know, you've both been on shows enough times to know. I would always try and look for the positives, you know, and even when we had 3% possession and we won 1-0 with coming off Antonio's arse, I'd fucking applauded that as like we won, you know. But even I knew that it was time for him to go. But are we going to go to the point of? I mean, what's Lopetegui got to, well, apart from winning games, of course, what's Lopetegui got to do before the next international break to calm the nerves?
win
Is
games.
it purely about winning games?
But it is because he's changed the way we've played. We're playing better. I'd argue playing better and losing, you know. And when you talk to people in football, we all have, they tell you it's a results-based business. A lot of people in football couldn't give a monkeys about how they played. It was just, you know, win, win, win. You know, players are paid for winning games and scoring goals. Yeah, they're not paid on, well, didn't you do well? You know, they don't get a bonus for having 52% possession. They get a bonus for playing and winning. It's results-based business. If he can get 4
will the
points,
fan base then? Will the fan base over the next 2 games?
Yeah.
Let's say, for argument's sake, Lopetegui goes for low block. Let's say, and it's really turgid and awful, but we walk away with 2 wins. The fan base is going to be happy.
They'll be happy with the wins, but they'll moan about the style of play.
They'll moan about the style of football.
Because there's always got to be something to moan about.
Well, this is it, isn't it? That's the bottom line, really. You know, it's like when we were winning under Moyes, people complained because the football was poor, and it was. But if that's the way Lopetegui has to do things, then I don't know. I don't know how we're going to make the fan base. Clearly, you know, a lot of fans want to see really attractive football, lots of possession, and wiping the floor with opposition.
Go support Man City, then, I'll say to them fans. And I do. If that's what you want, I'm sorry, you're supporting the wrong team. Because I'll tell you what, as quick as West Ham can build a team that good, the big boys will come and buy half of it.
Yeah.
And those players that are that good won't want to play for West Ham. They'll want to go on and play for the bigger clubs.
Yeah.
Because that's now the way football works.
Yeah. My apologies for not reading out a lot of your comments. I do apologise, but that is an interesting one. I've saved a few, so we'll go back to them as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Since we had European football, we think we should be in Europe each year. Our expectations are very high, but unfortunately, it's the Premier League and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's spot on, isn't it?
No, again, it goes to that crux where I go, what do you want or what do you expect West Ham to be? Me, I expect us to finish between 7th and 12th. That's what I expect us to finish. And I always used to say, if you can get me to the semi-final of a cup, I'll be eternally grateful. You didn't even have to get to the final. I just wanted a semi-final. And I think so we've had a good cup run. And then, you know...
I said something similar to you, didn't I, Stel, just before we kicked off the season? And I said I'd be happy with a top 10 finish and a cup run. You know, and I think that's realistic for a new manager's first season.
Well, we had our cup run, 2 games.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Look, we were unfortunate.
I actually do
draw,
think we were unfortunate on Wednesday
to get Liverpool.
Apart from it being fixed, you know, Liverpool at home, they got a favoured draw and all that sort of shit, and the referee was not the best, and we did play well for fucking 75 minutes.
Yeah,
Robert, this is a good point. Good players have to be consistent. Lopetegui is playing players that are not showing consistency. Drop them and give other players a chance. Andy Irving.
Yeah.
I see. He could be a wild card.
No,
Luis
he could.
Guilherme
I was watching the game with my Tottenham neighbour. He come over to watch the game, and my punishment was I had to go and watch the Tottenham game the next night with him. Which I was cheering when they went down to 10 men after 8 minutes. And then I sit and watch a carrier bag. I couldn't score. But I mean, and I sort of said the same thing about Andy Irvine. For all we know, he could turn out to be pretty decent because he was like, who's this bloke geezer coming on then?
Yeah.
I said, Andy Irvine. He went, I've never heard of him. I said, funny enough, neither have half the West Ham fans.
But I mean, the point that Robert made is give other players a chance. And when you start, it's a strong bench, isn't it? It's a pretty decent bench that we've got. You know, the first 11. Then it's not like it's not bad.
It's no. Still, what I'm saying is, it's decent compared to what we've had.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a decent bench for the Premier League.
What do you think, Dan?
No, he's making a very good point there. He is making a really good point, because if you really think about it, we strengthened the 11, didn't we? But we didn't strengthen the bench, because you're dropping those that weren't good enough for the 11 to the bench. So,
all right, what about some of the players that we let out? Oh, Ward-Prowse, should we have let him go?
I don't think we
if we wanted a stronger bench.
I don't think we should have let him go, personally. I think that was a surprising one, but Lopetegui obviously sees something he didn't like.
Or maybe Ward-Prowse didn't want to stay on the bench.
Yeah, maybe he didn't want to compete.
Do you think there are people that watch this that are new to football and think, why do they call it a bench when it's seats?
New fans, Nigel? Don't know what a bench is.
Football wouldn't survive without them, mate. I love them. They get certificates now. Have you seen that from West Ham?
Certificates?
Certificates, yeah.
For what?
If you've got a fan club and you sign up to West Ham, they'll send you a certificate. So there you go. You're an official
you're
fan
on one
club.
now. Here we go.
Oh, mate.
I had to get that little dig in.
You know when you think, I could think of nothing worse, realistically, than getting a fucking certificate off of that mob.
It's a bit political, people. It's a bit what's going on in the background. By the way, commiserations. That was a little bit fixed.
Well, listen, I wouldn't say fixed, yeah, and I wouldn't. What I would say is that the opposition got their vote out.
Yeah,
good. That's the name of the game, isn't it? At the end of the day, I don't even think I did my best, actually. I think at early doors I realised I was up against it and it was a bit half-hearted and a fingers crossed moment. But, look, hey-ho, if people heard the podcast on Monday, they'd know what I thought about the new setup.
What we're talking about is the supporters club. Nigel went up for one of the posts. What is it? A post? Is it a role? And he got picked to the post.
Yeah,
but it
trounced, actually. I'm
being polite.
Someone else. As I sat with Sean in the lobby, I went to him. He was going, "Oh yeah, I see someone. They said they voted for us and see them." I went, "Yeah, Sean. 6 people voted for me that didn't vote for you. So do you not think some of them are lying to your face when they say?" I could probably name everyone that voted for me, and 6 of them didn't vote for you, mate. But anyway, God blimey, if ever a building fitted where West Ham are now, you got the supporters club in a rented building, possibly not fit for purpose.
Yeah, I've been there. I don't mind it.
Did you sit in the foyer?
Well, which bit's the foyer? This is it.
The bit outside. You go in and you're in.
Yeah, you go into the first bit where they have the bar,
the student cafeteria. Yeah.
and then there's the foyer.
And you got the foyer where you got that building with a tree growing out of it, where we were debating whether that's art, and if it was art, is it supposed to resemble like the Blitz or something?
Well, it's a uni. What do you expect? It's not designed for football fans. So
it's not a sports or social club, is it? And I rest my case.
It's not really. It's not. Yeah. Anyway, so all right.
Atrium. Yes,
it's the atrium. It's exactly that. Exactly what it is. It's the atrium. It is the atrium. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's no longer called a foyer or a hallway.
Well,
it's an atrium.
Yeah, we've gone from a podium to an atrium. Yeah.
You ain't been there yet, have you, Dan?
No.
It's a little bit
sterile.
Yeah.
Is the word. But don't worry, they've got a flag up that says Dubai Hammers, so it makes you feel at home. I imagine that's what Dubai looks like.
The consolation is it's about 2 seconds from the nearest
Bridge.
Yeah. That's about the biggest consolation. It doesn't take long to get into the stadium from there.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit atmosphere it has not. But anyway.
Oh, there was a bit of an edgy atmosphere the other day, but that might have been for different reasons.
I heard Sean was told you're barred.
Well, yeah.
Jokingly.
Yeah.
Jokingly.
Yeah.
Did you get a frosty welcome?
Not from Christine on the door. I preferred to keep myself and to myself when it came to the other members of the committee.
Right. Fair play. I get it.
I said something that I may regret.
Dan, you're coming to the Ipswich game, aren't you?
Yes, I am, mate.
I will take for your sins. I'll take you there. We'll have a drink beforehand.
Okay, mate.
So you can
just so then I can comment on it the next time we're all together.
Yeah, exactly. And then your first comment will be, "Hang on, isn't that like the other place, which is right next door?" And it is like the other place, but that felt more like home. I don't know why. Maybe because it had the bit above the
the one are you on about? The one that was on the canal?
No. Staff space was the best.
That was the best. Who'd have thought? I'd have thought an art gallery would have been the best place to put the supporters.
Of all people, you going in where students really go to. I mean, it's funny, but not funny because all the what do they call the people that live around that part of the world now? The
hipsters.
All the hipsters.
Yeah.
It's not. I shouldn't laugh, but I did laugh when I heard that.
It collapsed.
It collapsed.
Yeah.
And a few hipsters had their beards put out of shape.
Oh, yeah.
No one got hurt. No one got hurt in the collapse of the first floor.
It was, yes. But that was the best. That was
It was good. Sorry, people. We're going completely off piste here, so my apologies. Right. Tomorrow, there's an important game against Brentford. What are we realistically expect? I mean, I've got different. By the way, we've heard now. I mean, here's how social media works. Let me see if I can share a screen and get you, because a boost apparently the first thing we saw earlier today. Let me
boost.
Share that. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, I prefer Star.
The story came up going a boost for Lopetegui. Nicholas Fulkrug seems to be fit, and then straight after, there was another story, literally about 10 minutes later, I think from the same channel, or maybe it was Hammers News, that said Fulkrug out until after the next international window. Not window, next international break. So one social media channel said he's fit and ready to go, and another one literally 10 minutes later said he's out until after the international break. So I'm guessing he's not available.
Clicks and likes, mate. That's all that is.
Oh, and you know what? I'm missing a trick, ain't I? I'm missing a trick. I just should call this clickbait YouTube channel.
Mate, honestly, I think
the bollocks clickbait YouTube
Never
channel.
mind the clickbait, is the bollocks. What about that?
I genuinely think being an ITK must be the easiest job in the world, because you could just make up any line.
You can make up any fucking shit,
and there'll be enough people that would like it and retweet it and share it. And
listen, the thing about it is what you say about the ITK. It reminds me of when two very prevalent ITKs decided to get together and make a story up about us signing a Brazilian player.
Yeah. I know who you mean.
And they wanted to prove that the press were nicking their stories, and it got to the point where this this Brazilian player that they literally just picked his name off the transfer market, then went on a goal scoring spree in Brazil and got actually interviewed about being linked to a Premier League club. And
the irony.
That and in a way it proved their point, but it also proved my point in that sometimes they can do as much harm as what they can do. Look, there's 100 people, 200 people watching this. People want to soak up West Ham content. I'm sure there are people that love the content and love getting the news and read what the ITKs and think they do a good service. For me, I always think they do more harm than good, and that's why you'd never get me.
And it's I mean, I'm not having a go at anyone, and each to their own, I guess. But it's funny because when I do live shows, especially the Monday shows, people will all of a sudden ask me about, what do you think of this? Or they'll go on about a story that they've read and I'm like, I don't know what you mean. And then I look at it and I think, oh, what do you say? Because you look stupid if you don't follow it. And do you know what I mean? It's like, because everyone gets carried away with the story, it's like, well, it's got to be true, isn't it? And that's the worst about social media, isn't it? And our West Ham fan base, you got to get the news from somewhere. But how do they filter out the absolute bollocks from the reality?
The transfer window in particular is far worse for the social media generation than it ever was. That the transfer window has been ruined by it, because obviously we live inside a West Ham bubble, so the majority of the stuff we look at is West Ham. But I'm sure every club goes through the same thing we do, being linked to 150 players every window, and you end up most clubs sign 5 or 6, don't they? Do you know what I mean? We had a particularly busy window, but not every club does that every summer.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to a couple of comments. I starred them. So let's so GP, thank you very much again. Joe, could it be that the players we signed were done so with intention of playing a different formation? That's actually surprised me that Lopetegui stuck with a 4-2-3-1. Is 4-2-3-1 now outdated and easy for teams to work out and play against? I actually thought, when I did research on him, it kept talking about him playing like a 4-3-3 and, that was his favoured formation. Are you surprised he's gone with a 4-2-3-1?
Well, we actually did a stream maybe, or a video or something earlier in the season, didn't we? And we talked about who he would line up with in the 4-3-3.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what we thought he was going to do.
Yeah.
So I am quite surprised, to be honest, that he's gone with a 4-2-3-1. But
he
does change things in game, though, doesn't he?
What do I think, mate? 11 players on the pitch.
4-4-2, proper wingers.
Well, listen, people go, oh, 4-4-2 is dead. But people think Pep's invented this new way of playing. Well, guess what? It was actually taken from someone else, who had actually got it from someone else. So, and everything, years ago, I think it was the WM formation, historically, was played in England up until the Hungarians kicked our asses. And then you jump forward to Alf Ramsey. Alf Ramsey brings in 4-4-2. The press go, oh, what's going on? Because they were known as the wingless wonders, because he was the first England manager to play without proper wingers. If you look at his midfield,
knew we'd get history in somewhere.
Well, if you look at his midfield quickly, you had like Nobby Stiles, who was like Souček maybe with a bit more energy. Yeah. you had Bobby Charlton in the number 10 role. You had Alan Ball and you had Martin Peters. None of them were wingers.
Yeah.
So, and the weird thing is that Mark Peters was sort of was for England one of the wider players, because you had Charlton and Nobby Stoles in the middle. So you had Ball and Peters, but Ball weren't really a winger. And Peters, well, he was nicknamed the Ghost, wasn't he? Because that's what he was nicknamed, the Ghost, because he used to appear in the box late, and where he got his goals from. So that's So when people go to me, 4-4-2, so old school, it doesn't have to be, And maybe 4-4-2 is the way you counteract these tactics now. The thing that no one's ever explained to me is in what sphere do you score more goals with only one striker on the pitch compared to two?
Yeah. And if you can get the ball to them, exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. So that was a good question. That was a good point there that was made. Go back on a couple of others. John, did you hear the story about Tim Steidten and the mystery fella having a chat, and Tim said he's getting out of the club? No way is he staying, and sell up and piss off Sully.
Oh, right. There you go. Has he been hanging around pubs again, Steidten? Dear, oh dear.
Andrew, have we lost the players already? Are they not having Lopetegui? Too early, isn't it?
Yeah, it's too early. Too early. But but players do cling to managers. Not cling to managers, but have relationships with managers, and knows that Moyes brought the Bowen and Souček were his first two signings of his second coming as such, and they're going to have a lot to be grateful to him.
But here's the thing, they're still being picked. Bowen and Souček, we spoke about Souček a minute ago. They're still being picked. It's not as if they've been sort of like, sort of outcast. So yes, they may have had a loyalty to Moyes because they were the first two players that he brought in, but they haven't been dropped, have they? So you don't think that they must be playing for the new manager, the new coach?
The thing is, with football's a funny game. I think it'd be silly for any player to have a loyalty to just one man. Managers can come and go, the same way players can. Surely players are professional enough to get their head down and play for whoever's in charge, unless the shit really hits the fan. And like we're 7 games in, like.
So it is more adapting rather than them not believing in the manager or a new coach.
Well, you would hope that's the case.
Peter says, anyone notice how Lopetegui needed to... this is actually quite a good point. Anyone notice how Lopetegui needed to speak to a translator a lot in press conferences? Is he able to get his point across to the players? Is that you see him going absolutely nuts on the touchline? We've talked about that earlier on. Could it be because they're just... I know it sounds again a bit weird, but are they not understanding his tactics, direction?
Well, I didn't understand much that Moyes said a lot of the time, but
I don't.
But no, it might be a good point.
Yeah. I don't know. In a way, Pochettino had a translator. Didn't stop him.
He did all right.
Taking Tottenham and Southampton. Did very well at Southampton and did very well at Spurs when he went in. So, unless the translator, pretends and tells something that
tells him to do his own tactics rather than.
But he speaks English well enough, Lopetegui, anyway.
Yeah.
So,
I've always thought that.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a comfort blanket having the translator there.
Trodge, Paqueta 0 through balls or big chances created. Kuda struggling, Bowen even struggling. We talked about this. They are all struggling. We talked about dropping Paqueta. Would you even dare to drop the other two?
I just think Kudos needs playing in his strongest position. He impacts games if he does, in my opinion. Bowen is struggling. I am of the opinion that maybe the captaincy is weighing heavy.
Yeah, a lot of people have mentioned that. What do you think?
Because I think he was the obvious choice because he's one of the longer serving players. But I my feeling on this. Captains are defenders or centre mids.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah,
about Nigel?
for me, this may sound funny. When you look at it, I thought Souček actually, he's the captain of the Czech Republic,
and he's vice captain, isn't he? When the armband comes off Bowen.
So for me, it would have been Souček, but that would mean obviously that I would be picking him.
The fan base would be apoplectic if he became.
I know, and part of me would do it for that reason. Just to sit back with the old fishing rod out. You know, I've got a trawler here. I'm like, Captain Birdseye. He's pulling them fishies out.
And here's another interesting one. So we bemoan the fact that we played a low block last season and it was unattractive. Now Trodger's asking, how long are we going to play a high defensive line in the Premier League when that ain't really worked, has it? Or not yet?
No, but we look better though, don't we?
Well, isn't that what the fan base wanted? Isn't that what the fan base wanted?
Where is the happy medium though?
Well, where is mid-block?
Where is the happy medium? Because it's the pendulum has swung, but on I think on the season barometer, we're actually on course to get the same amount of points as we got last season,
aren't we? And that's against the same teams that
when corresponding.
I think the biggest issue when you play a high line is you've got to be able to press the ball effectively, and we haven't done that.
Yeah.
That's the issue. If you look at any team, you look at any team that plays that high line, they press the ball well in twos,
and if
and
you
they
lose
cut
it,
the channels.
Yeah. And if you lose it, you need athletes in the middle of the park.
Exactly, and we don't have that. And I think that's our undoing. When we do decide to press, there's no midfield. It just dissipates. So we can't press effectively at the moment. He doesn't. The biggest problem is that he doesn't know what his best team is yet.
Yeah,
he's still experimenting.
Yeah, and whilst players are still getting match fit, that might go on another probably until after the next international break. I've got two more stars.
Hold up. What's the best tactic to play when you're West Ham? The low block or the high line?
It depends on what you want.
No, I think that every formation or style of play should be tailored to the type of player you've got. Because if you think about it, if you'd have played a high line with Zuma and a Gerd, would that have worked? Or Zuma and
you might have lost 5-1 to Liverpool. Oh yeah,
but Zuma's never getting back. Is my point. You've got to have pacey centre backs, haven't you, to play a high line, and you need mobile midfielders, and it's just stuff we don't have.
Yeah.
I've got two more starred ones, but I'm going to save the best one till last. So I'll go to this one first. Question: do you think Bowen is not on form from playing a high line versus counter attack? See, that's another. It's what we were talking about earlier. That even Bowen has been for the last 4.5 years has been trained to be a really effective counter-attacking player. Now that he's being asked to play a different kind of game, is he struggling? Is it only the captaincy, or is what's being asked of him actually making him struggle?
That's a very fair comment.
It's a fair point. Totally fair.
If you really think about Bowen's career at West Ham and the way he's been told to play for the majority of it,
because he'll drop deep, always has done. He's always dropped deep. All that space that we afforded, the likes of Chelsea, etc. Normally, you'd see Bowen right next to Soufal, wouldn't you? Virtually. Right next, sort of helping him with defensive, etc. Now we're playing the high line. He's further up. And our defenders are going to be more exposed. That's a really, really good question. Could he be... I hate to even ask this, but is he the right kind of player? Is the likes of Bowen and Kudus, etc., are they the right kind of players for what Lopetegui wants to play? I mean, you wouldn't dare want to sell either of them, but if you thought you were going to get a player in that will fit Lopetegui's style more...
Well, it's all about the press, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the press. The problem that I've seen with West Ham is that we do like the half press, and the problem with a half press is always leaves one of the opposition players free for them to get the ball to. And as soon as that is happened and they're out of the press, well, they've just bypassed 3 or 4 of our players.
The thing is, with an effective press as well, it's not just about winning the ball from the player that's got it. It's about closing and pressing the channels. So you intercept the ball before they've made the pass. You know, there's ways of doing it. And Nigel makes a very good point. It's always like a half press. We never truly close the areas that we should be down.
So therefore, this is really all about our central midfield, isn't it? We ain't got the central.
Oh yeah,
midfield,
it's not mobile, and Chelsea, the Chelsea game exposed just how bad the midfield is. You know, I think for all the good work that was done in the window, that was an area that they papered over the cracks there, and they got Guido in as on a free transfer, thinking he might be able to do it. But as good a player as he is, he's just not mobile enough for the Premier League, in my opinion.
And then, like you said earlier, Nigel, you know, Soler, you know, not every big club has got good players. You know, Soler may not be as good as we think. He's come from PSG, but I don't necessarily mean him to be right. I like this one. I think Nigel was secretly the club secretary for the Sam Allardyce fan club. He's always mentioning him. Would you care to comment without swearing?
All I can say actually was one of the funniest things I had was last season when I compiled the stats for every West Ham manager, and Sean Sean sent it to Sullivan, and Sullivan emailed back and asked him, "That's very interesting," and then emailed again saying, "I can't see Sam Allardyce." At which point Sean went, "Yeah, he's there. It's Big Sham." Because I wouldn't use the name Allardyce on the spreadsheet, so he is under Big Sham. And Sullivan went, "Well, why does he call him that?" And he went, "Because he hated him as a manager." And Sullivan's reply was just, "Strange man." Which I took as a compliment from that gimp. So if Sullivan thinks I'm strange, you see what we all think of him.
It is a comment, an interesting one from Steve. In my opinion, Guilherme was a waste of time signing of him. And if Antonio and Souček start tomorrow, it's another defeat coming. I can actually see Antonio and Souček starting tomorrow. But let's start with Guilherme, because we pay £25 million for a teenager who is clearly a player for the future. But should we have done that? Or should we have spent that money on?
See, I've said this to a few of my mates. Now wasn't the time to sign players for the future, because there was too much of a rebuild needed with the first team, and we could have gone out and bought maybe a striker that fit the system better, or address the issue of the midfield, which is, you know, something I've been saying to you for a while. Still is an area that we needed to plug the gaps. So yeah, I think. Yeah, if you're 3 or 4 years into a project and you've got a stable team, then that's the sort of thing you do. But buying one for the future that could potentially be worth money in, say, 2 or 3 years' time, that's not what we needed at a time when there was a big rebuild.
When you go out and buy a player for the future, though, you don't spend 25 million on a player for the future, do you? You spend 10, 15.
Yeah, but he's highly sought after, wasn't he? He was well thought of in Brazil. They've obviously seen something there that they think he's going to be, you know, there's a 20% sell-on fee. So they must be looking at him thinking he's a 60, 70 million pound player once he's developed. Whether or not it happens is another thing, because this is West Ham. We've seen it before. We spend money on players and we find it hard to shift them for profit. So we'll just have to wait and see where that's concerned.
What do you think of that, Nigel? What did you make of when Steidtens was out there in Brazil, quite a lot of the early part of the transfer window? What was your thoughts at the time in terms of what he was doing out there?
Yeah,
well,
when you sign a
let
player,
me rephrase that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Go on.
When you know, as he says, 25 million, you'd want a player you'd think that would come in and at least be sitting on the bench and coming on in games to start off with. The second thing is that for years and years, a lot of the best Brazilians would start off playing their football in Holland, France, or Germany.
Yeah.
And not for big teams, but in Holland, like the Ajaxes, the Eindhovens, the PSVs, they were picking up. If you look like Ronaldo, started off at Ajax before he went on. Ronaldinho started off, I think, at a lower club before he went on. And you think, well, their scouting's good, isn't it? They've gone out there, they're finding these Brazilians, and they're bringing them through. Why ain't the English doing it? So you think, well, it's good that we've gone out, because it could be that Guilherme may go and sell for 50, 60, 70 million in the way I thought would be like 4 or 5 years' time. What I didn't expect him to do was to be playing under 21 football. But then again, I don't coach. I'm not a coach. I don't know. So this could be the path. I get the theory that that's a lot of money that we needed to put right. But at the end of the day, we spent 140, 50 million anyway, which was more than West Ham expected to spend in the first place, and we still brought in 9 players, of which one is him. So actually, you probably could afford to do that, to blood him in. It could be that we don't see him till after January. So as long as we bring him in and he turns out to be the player that we all hope he is, I think it'll be great, to be honest. Actually, that's the sort of type of thing that you got to do. When you look at Chelsea, why are Chelsea in the position that they're in? How have they been able to spend all this money? And it's because, in a way, under Abramovich, they became a puppy farm.
Yep.
And that PSR means you've got to sell your academy now. Is how you're going to be able to spend money.
Is that the way we might go? I mean, we talk about our academy being great, and I'll tell you, there are. I mean, Ollie Scholes has been moved from left side of play, and he's been playing central midfield for the under-21s this season, and he's looked great alongside Lewis Orford. They won again tonight, by the way. They beat Chelsea
3-2.
3-2. And yet another bright spark who scored a brace. I had his name. He's our left back who scored 2 identical goals, which looked superb, and pace on the boy was unbelievable. And we go on about, the likes of Adil. That's him. Yeah. We go on about thanks for Googling that. We go on about.
I don't use Google slander. It's called Live Score.
We go on about the academy. We've got several players out who do 1 or 2 are doing okay on loan. But do we end up? What I was surprised about with Lopetegui during the summer transfer window was he shipped out all of our really, really good academy players. Shipped them out on loan is what I meant. But are we going to go the same route as the likes of Chelsea in order to finance our future sales? It's likely, isn't it? We could sell Orford. I know he's just signed a 5-year deal, but we could end up selling him for quite a bit of money.
Yeah,
is Guilherme going to be?
It depends how they develop, though. We've had this before, where we've had players in the academy that were destined for great things, and then they've gone on and done nothing.
Yeah.
It's how they develop, and I always say about the academy, and don't get me wrong, like anyone else, I would love to see boys come through the academy and end up playing for the first team. I think that's what every club wants to see. But I think we have to temper expectation, because I think it's easy for some of these lads to look good against players their age and their size. The jump to the Premier League is massive. You hear a lot of players talk about how that jump from, the Championship to the Premier League, or from the under-21s to the Premier League, and the physicality of it, it's night and day. So I do think, as much as we all want to see youth, we do have to, just take it down a notch and wait until they're ready and see what they can do. You know, I was surprised Urfi went out on loan after the impact he had at the end of last season. But then is Loppy looking at it like they're not going to get much game time because this is the team that I want to use, so it's better that they get football somewhere else and develop in, you know, a good league like the Championship, for instance?
You know, one player I'm actually surprised we loaned out, given what we've just talked about, our central midfield not being mobile enough, it's Freddie Potts. Now, he got his debut, finally got his debut for Portsmouth the other week and looked really good. And, you know, he played something like, here's the irony, that I think Portsmouth were winning 1-0. I can't remember who they're playing now. Potts came off and then they lost 2-1 because he apparently controlled that midfield. You know, and when we talk about our midfield and it but not being mobile enough, surely if you're going to go out to a Championship club, and I'm going to ask a question about Flynn Downs in a minute because that's just come in my head. Surely if you're doing really well in the Championship club, isn't that what you're expecting from your loan signings? You know, your youngsters, go and impress us in the Championship, show you can do it so you can come back and then play in the Premier League. And yet Flynn Downs did that last season. And Flynn Downs apparently has got the most passes or something in the Premier League so far this season.
Yeah. What, this season?
For this season?
Yeah. Where's Southampton in the table again?
Yeah, but what could he do if he was playing for us? We're not fucking far off him, you know. But what could someone like Potts or Flynn Downs? And I remember a lot of fans weren't keen on Flynn Downs, but our midfield, we brought in Guido Rodriguez, you know, an experienced international, etc. And we could have maybe have kept Potts or we could have kept Flynn Downs. Now, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but we could have maybe have had a more agile midfield with someone like Downs, couldn't we? Or am I wishing, am I not seeing it in the right way?
I don't think Flynn Downs was given a fair crack at the whip.
Yeah.
He went out on loan to Southampton. I think he proved what a good player he was. Was he not their player of the year?
He was their player of the year. Yeah.
Wanted to come back and play for us for whatever reason. I mean, are you telling? Listen, it's hard to. I'm not going to judge a player. It may be a bit unfair, but for what we've seen of Rodriguez, couldn't we have just kept Downs?
Well, that's what I'm kind of saying. That's what I'm alluding to. Yeah.
And what you got to remember is Downs is not even an academy player. So in the scheme of this PSR that you got to try and fit in with the financial fair play, he ain't really sitting in the profit sheet either. It was just seemed nonsensical to me.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we've looked at the Guido Rodriguez signing now, and on paper, maybe it looked better than it was, but I think it just goes to prove how hard the Premier League is and how physical it is, how fast it is, because he's getting passed by. The game passes him by. And I know it's early into his career, and like Nigel said, you don't want to criticise him too much because it is just a few games in, but the Chelsea game was the big telltale for me. I watched
a massive exposure.
He was all, and him and Alvarez. Alvarez was the biggest surprise, considering that, you know, Alvarez had a semi-decent season last year and they just got ripped apart.
And the thing about Rodriguez quickly is that, again, this is it was sold to us was a World Cup winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had that before.
Yeah.
What did we have before? World Cup player.
Right. How many games did he play in that run to the final?
Not many.
I thought it was none.
I think he was on the bench, yeah.
So it's easy to win a World Cup medal and say you're a World Cup winner when you don't play a single minute at a tournament. Yeah. Adrian's won the European Cup. Yeah, he did it without playing.
Yeah.
You know?
Danny's a good point here. If Guilherme was good enough, he'd be near the first team now. Again, let's not dance up the academy. Remember, Rio, Cole, Defoe, Carrick, etc. We're all in around the first team at 17. That's a good point, isn't it? You know, Guilherme's just turned 18. So there is time for him. And maybe, like you said earlier on, Nigel, we might see him around about January, you know, when we start needing a few fresh legs and stuff like that. he might start getting into the team then. Don't know if he'll start.
Yeah,
but
it's easy to pick them out. I'm not going to criticise it. It's easy to pick them out. You know, all of them went on to play with England. You know, we developed there a fantastic crop of players. But then if you look at the bunch that followed that, which is your Mark Nobles, your Elliot Wards, your Anton Ferdinands, and your Chris Goins, you know, blimey, I think most of them only got first team football when they were young because we'd been relegated.
Mm.
And you know, there's a good chance that the likes of Anton and Noble may not have got a crack in the first team if we hadn't have been relegated. If we'd have been a Premier League club, that those players would not have broke through into the first team and been given the chance.
Here's a question for you. History question for Nigel. Did West Ham ever seriously consider moving to West Ham Stadium in Custom House? And if so, when? Okay.
I can answer the if so bit. No, they didn't.
Okay.
Well, they never seriously considered it. They were offered the stadium in the, I think, mid to late 60s. For those that don't know, the West Ham Stadium was actually the Speedway Greyhound Banger Racing, which is by, for those that know, it was by the A13 Prince Regent's Lane Junction. Long since, I think it shut in 72, was demolished in 74. At the time it was built in the mid 20s, mid 20s, could hold 120,000 people. So it could have they would have the Grand National, the Greyhound Grand National there. Speedway was a big thing. West Ham actually deemed it too big for them. But it did set a record for a football game in attendance. And that record is it held the lowest ever attendance for a professional, the lowest 120,000, yeah. It held the lowest ever attendance for a professional football game. I believe it was in 1930 or 31. It was about 460 fans attended Thames FC, who were a made-up team to play football there because they needed something to use the stadium for in the winter. So the owners of the stadium came up with, let's start a football team. It was called Thames AFC. They were alive for about 4 seasons. They were 2 seasons in non-league, got elected into the Football League, even though they didn't win the non-league title. Yeah, but they got elected because people saw that they were in East London, a hotbed of football, West Ham and everything, saw they were in 120,000, you know, and all these crappy little 4th division teams or 3rd division South teams thought, wouldn't it be good to play them? And realised no fans. And the game was actually against Luton Town. They only lasted 2 seasons before they folded, and it must have been a bad, because I think they finished rock bottom of what would be the 4th division or the 2nd division now. And that was the year that West Ham got relegated as well. So if you was a football fan, go into Thames and watch West Ham play, you wouldn't have had a good year in 1932-33.
Do you know what I genuinely love when I come on here with Nigel? Still, you will always say to me, Dan, your knowledge on football is like top notch. And then I come on with Nigel, and I honestly feel so thick. He knows so much stuff about football. It's ridiculous. This is knowledge I never would know anything about.
This is why it's a great balance, because you do have a good knowledge of football. You know, you can talk tactics and stuff like that. I'm shit at all that, and I know. I mean, it no matter what we talk about, he can bring it to the history. I mean, James is absolutely right. Have you ever seriously, no word of a lie, thought about going on Mastermind?
Yes. And do you want to know how close I got?
Go on.
Very close.
What do you mean? So what? So you applied.
So
and what?
So yeah. So I applied for Mastermind, and you had to fill a form online, do this questionnaire. Then the BBC ring you up which is a bit strange. They ring you up and they go, "You entered for Barcelona?" I go, "Oh yeah." And then they go, "Right, so is it all right if we just do a short sports quiz with you?" So I said, "Yeah, sports, that's up my street." So we do a short sports quiz. It goes, "Fantastic. We're going to email you another link." So you go on and answer another 20 questions. You pass that. Now I have to go, perhaps this is where I've gone wrong. I have got a face for radio, yeah, is that now you have to go and do a screen test. And it was at Wembley Stadium.
Right.
So they hire a box and they sit you down and you have to supply them with your specialist subjects. So my specialist subjects were FA Cup finals, 1969 to present day. This was in about 2006 or 7. So I could tell you every FA Cup winner, basically from 1964 onwards. So then I had West Ham in the FA Cup from 1969 to the present. And then my third specialist subject was Ian Terence Botham. So all sport related. I did very well in the quiz. Some of the questions they asked strange, like it was all sporting questions as well. You know, who replaced Damon Hill, which was Irons Harold Frenson. You know, where's the St Ledger run? Well, that's at Doncaster, I believe. Stuff like that. But I got pipped. Strangely as enough, is that when you sit and watch that series of Mastermind, there was a bloke on there, and his specialist subject was FA Cup finals from 1970 to present day.
You're kidding.
So you think that's bonkers. And the thing is, I beat him. I'm sitting at home, yeah, and I beat his score. But honestly, I do believe it'd probably be. It's easier to do it sitting at home than it is to be sitting in that chair and whatever. But I mean, basically, if I'd got through that TV round, I'd have made it.
Would you ever? Well, how long ago did you apply for that?
2007.
So it's about time you applied again.
Possibly. Funny enough, my knowledge is probably even better now.
Yeah.
Than it was back then. Because I read, you know, I've got a lot of books.
We know, you know,
and
it's like...
so yeah.
But but Dan, that's why, you know, I mean, because I know not your I just have, I don't know what happened yesterday, let alone.
Yeah, do you know what it is? It's the way he just soaks it up and he just remembers it so well and so clearly. You've clearly got a way of, you know, taking in information, Nigel.
Useless information. Actually, there's no benefit in real life.
Well, no, if you win Mastermind, that's a benefit, isn't it?
Yeah, but you don't win no money still, do you? I mean,
go on, look, there you go. Mastermind could do with a laugh. I think you'll do well.
I mean, people ain't going to pay me $5 a month, are they, to tell them historical facts?
Well, you don't know. You don't know. But then, you know, but that's why it's good to, you know, good to have you on. And it is, that's why it's good, because Dan, you bring a different perspective, because it makes me look good when people like you are on, because it all sounds quite fucking intelligent, you know. All right, let's get on to tomorrow. Like now, I'm believing now, so you can forget the fact that I've got Fulkrug on the subs bench, because my understanding is he ain't going to play. He's not available. So what team would you like out tomorrow? What do you want to see tomorrow? And I'll stop at the one that... who do you want to start up front? I've got Antonio. I've got Kudus. Ain't going to be Kudus. It could be Bowen. But who do you think?
Striker for me is the hardest one to nail down, because
for me, I'd go Danny Ings. I'll just throw that in there. Go, Dan. You can pick yours.
Yeah, no, do you know what, Nigel? It's not the worst pick, because I don't like Bowen up front. I just don't think he gives you. I don't think he gives you what he gives you on the wing. I know he hasn't just given us much this season, but usually he's more effective out on that wing than he is up top. Antonio it isn't happening for him. Hasn't happened for a while. If Fulkrug is injured still, then you can't really go with him. So I think Ings. I'm surprised Ings didn't get the nod after he scored against Fulham anyway. It was a bit of a strange one for me. Strikers thrive off scoring goals, so the best thing would have been to throw him in again.
Do you both agree with that then?
Yeah, I just think it's a better option than what is available, maybe.
Okay.
We know what Antonio can do. Yeah. We know, look, 34, I think he's had a fantastic career at West Ham. Yeah, I think he's had a fantastic career at West Ham. So, yes, we know what he can do. Okay. Let's try Ings.
Who would you put at the back? What did you think of Todibo the other day? Did you think he had a good game? Against I know it sounds weird having been thumped 5-1, but
he turned his back, didn't he, on one of the
the final, the last goal.
Bit of criticism.
To be fair, Fab was awful for three of them.
Yeah.
Really bad. Well, I'm not excusing the defence because you've got to get past that first to then have a chance at the keeper, but I don't know. Do you know what? I would give Todibo a go just because Mavropanos has not been good.
Nigel?
Listen, I'm not writing Todibo off because of the Liverpool game, so I can. Do you know the funny thing is, I was even in pre-season we were poor defensively.
Yeah.
And it's only been the away games where we haven't conceded goals. Even in pre-season, it was, we were averaging 2 odd goals a game, conceding. So, and I think the problem is the middle. So yeah, I'd go with Todibo, Kilman, I suppose Emerson and Bissaka, pick them, that back line, really. I suppose that's it, really, isn't it? And then we just got to decide the three, the three there, really, in the middle, behind Ings, are they the best three? The Soler, the Paquetá, and Rodriguez.
Give me your 3 then, that you'd like to see start tomorrow.
I would probably go Souček, Soler, and put Kudos in instead of Paquetá.
Dan?
I don't disagree. It would be Soler or Paquetá, but yeah, I would play Souček over Guido just because Guido's been found out, and whatever people think of Souček, he knows the league.
And Kudos in the middle?
Yeah, definitely. I'd play Kudos behind the striker.
So you're both dropping Paquetá.
Yeah.
He's not been good.
He was lucky not to get sent off against Liverpool. And he only came on as a sub.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Bowen and Somerville either side.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. That's an interesting lineup. Realistically, is that what Lopetegui's going to do?
No.
Is that a top 6 lineup? Is that a top 8 lineup?
Well, a lot of people will look at that and they'll look at Ings and Souček as the weak links immediately.
All right, but who do you replace them with then?
Well, no, for me, I hear what you say about Bowen, but for me, what I would probably do, and it is giving Paquetá another chance, but I would probably do that.
If you replace Soler with Guido, that's the team he plays.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I think that's the team he picks.
So you reckon Lopetegui will put Soler on the bench?
I think he'll play. I think he'll just play 2 holding midfielders because he has done in every game for some strange reason.
And it's away from home.
Mm.
So you reckon that'll be his lineup tomorrow? Bowen again.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, once all these players are really up to match fitness, he's then got choices to make, hasn't he? When Fulham comes back from injury, you know, he's got a choice there to make, because that means he's going to have to end up dropping.
Yeah, he's not.
know.
He's same choice. It's like Obson's choice for me. You know, what's the average age of Antonio, Ings, and Fulkrug is what, 33, 32.
Yeah.
I just think that's the area for me. Yeah. It's been neglected, because if you're conceding goals, as long as you, but if you're struggling to score goals, which I think we are, we're not scoring many, then you're not gonna win games when you concede the way we do. And you know, we came off the back. Funny enough, while I was praising Moyes, I think you got to acknowledge that was the worst defensive performance across the season that West Ham's ever had in the Premier League. I should hunt. You know, I have seen worse, but in the Premier League, that is 38 game season, the worst defensive. Time and time again, you know, the embarrassing defeats, the 5s in, you know, against Fulham and Crystal Palace. You know, you shouldn't concede 5 to those teams. No West Ham team should ever concede 5. I might accept 5 against the Man City type Liverpool like flowing, but not against them teams. No, I don't.
Yeah.
You know, I said I don't get angry, but then Mark will go, nah, that ain't what West Ham should be doing.
Yeah. All right. Let's finish off with predictions.
Go on, Dan, you first.
No, but I really don't know.
Has he frozen there, or is he literally holding his head in his hand?
You could have just done that for the next 30 seconds.
I'm going to go with a 1-1.
Nigel?
I purely because in the Premier League, I think we've been playing better away from home. I'll go for a draw. Probably, 1-1.
I'm going for a win. I always do. I reckon we're going to shore it up.
It's your fault then.
Huh?
So it's your fault then.
We're going to shore it up at the back. We're going to demonstrate that we can defend, keep a clean sheet. Second clean sheet away from home after Palace. We'll win 2-0 tomorrow. Yeah.
The good news is, realistically, what I've seen is that Brentford have got 6 players out.
Yeah. You know, I feel quite guilty because it's not a balanced show, because I did try to, I focused so much on all the negative shit that's out about us that I didn't have time to actually look at Brentford. But you're right. I saw a report that they've got quite a number of players out. But sometimes that is when a team is even more dangerous. They've got, you know, you think, oh, it's going to be a walkover because they're missing half their players. And then they end up doing...
Yeah,
you know,
players come in for point to prove, don't they?
Point to prove, exactly. Yeah. I'm going for a 2-0. I'm going for a 2-0. You know, I think it could be that sort of game where it might not be a great performance, but it might just finally kick off our league. You know, I guess for another reason, obvious reason is I don't want us to go into the international break, you know, having maybe scraped a win or a draw, and then having and then putting the pressure on us against Ipswich. I want us to see 6 points. I want to see get 6 points in the next 2 games before the next international break. But then I am a bit of a dreamer, so there you go.
Well, listen, you're a dreamer, and you've come for bed already with your pajamas on, your West Ham pajamas still. So just to prove your point.
Paid a lot of money for this, I have, you know.
Oh, this is all right.
In the sale. Never buy anything.
Are you going tomorrow still?
I am, mate. I am going. Yeah.
Look out for Mr. Whetstone.
Yes, he did. You know, he's been asking me all week if I got a spare ticket.
This is a real crux for him because I'm not at the game. It's wife's birthday, so he managed to snaffle up the ticket that I would have had.
Is that where he got it
That's
from?
how, yeah. But obviously he was taking his boy, so I said, "So does that mean your boy's going then? If you can only get one."
This is exactly what I was going to say. You know, that means you're going to give it to Finn. No,
So,
he's
yeah.
going.
So we'll see.
He's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chaps, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's been good. Nearly 2 hours. Imagine talking 2 hours about West Ham. I mean, you know, imagine if it was all going well. We wouldn't.
Just a short program tonight, then. Still,
it's a short one. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. My apologies that we couldn't. Oh, I've tried to put as many comments out as I can, but sorry I couldn't read them out. So my apologies for that. But I hope you all enjoyed the show, and I guess we'll see you all soon. Cheers, lads. See you, everyone, and thank you for watching. Much appreciated. Oop.